Yeah, I mean, Marty is like a brother to me, and he's so many ways been supportive of my career.
She did have a lot of resources. When you compare what she would have made by today's standards with the records that she sold, not even close.
They sang about love lost, neon bars, and dusty highways, but the papers they left behind tell stories stranger than any breakup ballad. Picture a mahogany courtroom where guitars have fallen silent, families huddle behind attorneys, and a judge reads a single line that flips nostalgia on its head. One clause demands a beloved tour bus never be sold outside the bloodline. Another warns that if anyone even thinks about contesting, they will walk away empty-handed. Somewhere else, a taxidermist polishes the glass eyes of a famous horse because the contract says that faithful steed must continue greeting fans forever. These are not tabloid rumors. They are legally binding documents signed in ink, often in shaky script just days before the final curtain fell. Tonight we journey through 6 categories of last-minute directives, each more breathtaking than the verse that made its author a star. We will ride shotgun with Johnny Cash as his daughters learn they have been cut out, then shuffle into a faded hotel room where Hank Williams scrawled a will that honored his mother over his wife. We will watch a legal trap snap shut around anyone foolish enough to cross George Jones, and we will smell the preserved leather of Roy Rogers' immortal trigger. By the end, you may never hear your favorite country classic the same way again, because every chorus hides a secret, and every secret was eventually read aloud. So lean in, keep your boots planted, and prepare for a parade of love, spite, and legacy that proves the wildest stories sometimes begin after the music stops. And if you think wills are dry paperwork, just wait. These pages crackle like a campfire at midnight, throwing sparks no courtroom carpet can smother. Keep count, because revelation pushes the line between myth and truth. Johnny Cash spent decades telling the world he wore black for the poor and beaten down, but the ink on his will was bright red for 4 of his own children. When the man in black died in 2003, the bulk of an estate worth tens of millions flowed straight to his only son with June, John Carter Cash. His daughters, Roseanne, Kathy, Cindy, and Tara, were left staring at a token amount that felt more like a final chorus of silence than generosity. Roseanne later called the split a surprise punch to the gut, and whispers suggest Cash believed a single heir would protect the catalog he guarded like sacred scripture. The sisters disagreed, and their resentment still surfaces whenever a licensing deal rolls through Nashville. Just down the highway, Tammy Wynette's daughters felt a sting just as sharp. The First Lady of country music left almost everything to her final husband, George Ritchie, a decision announced while funeral flowers were still fresh. Ritchie promptly locked the family home and catalog vaults, sparking a legal standoff that lasted longer than some marriages. Glenn Campbell's clan faced similar heartbreak when the rhinestone cowboy shined his spotlight on only 5 of 8 children. 3 siblings, described politely in court as excluded parties, filed suit, arguing dementia clouded their father's judgment. The judge upheld the will, and the family band still plays off-key at reunions. Naomi Judd took exclusion further, granting full control of her fortune to husband Larry Strickland. Daughter Winona admitted she was shocked, though later confessed she suspected her mother believed business decisions were easier outside blood ties. Ashley Judd, seasoned in Hollywood drama, chose public grace but private fury. The pattern is unmistakable. Mothers and fathers who once harmonized about unconditional love turned ruthless when planning the encore. Yet even this brand of heartbreak looks tidy compared with handwritten chaos waiting in the next motel room. Hotel stationery does not look like history, yet that flimsy paper can bulldoze fortunes. Legend says Hank Williams Sr. grabbed a room service pad in 1952, scribbled a few wavering sentences, and crowned his mother, Lily, the primary guardian of royalties he had barely lived to earn. The ink was still drying when he died in the back seat of a Cadillac on New Year's Day. Lily and estranged wife Audrey leapt into court faster than any fiddle break, unleashing a legal duel that lasted longer than Hank's entire touring career. The lesson should have been clear, but Patsy Cline ignored it only a decade later. She jotted a heartfelt note about her children's future, folded it into a Bible, and told friends, "If something happens, look here." Something did happen. A plane crash on a dark Tennessee hillside. The note, heartfelt but informal, had no legal teeth, leaving her husband and lawyers to guess at her true intent. Keith Whitley left behind dreams instead of instructions. Among half-finished lyrics in a spiral notebook, loved ones found a sketch of a sprawling family farm he hoped to buy once the road finally released him. But whiskey and wanderlust claimed him first, and the notebook became a relic of possibilities never notarized. Even written wills can crack like old barnwood if witnesses are missing or dates are fuzzy, a fact that haunts families every time another unsigned guitar surfaces at auction. The scrawls these stars left behind prove that country artists could pour their souls onto paper, but when the song ended, the law demanded more than melody. And if writing it down was risky, leaving nothing at all was like tossing dynamite into a family reunion. The fallout from blanks would echo for decades. Conway Twitty died as one of country music's most reliable hit machines, yet the superstar who sang about tight harmonies left his family in cacophony. With no formal will, his widow and children squared off with former business partners over royalties, trucking companies, and even the Twitty Bird trademark. The court battle stretched nearly a decade, draining millions that could have paid for grandchildren's college and platinum reissues. Lawyers joked that by the end, everyone in Nashville owned a piece of Conway except the people singing along in pickup trucks. Lefty Frizzell's estate became another cautionary ballad. The honky-tonk pioneer died young, copyrights loosely documented on cocktail napkins and handshake deals. For 30 years, heirs fought over pennies that occasionally turned into unexpected windfalls when a Frizzle classic slid onto a movie soundtrack. Dottie West taught yet another painful lesson. Drowning in debt, she directed that her personal belongings be auctioned to settle creditors. Guitars, stage gowns, and handwritten lyrics hit the block, fetching enough to silence banks, but leaving her legacy scattered in strangers' display cases. The absence or weakness of legal planning converts grief into strategy, forcing siblings to treat funerals like preseason for court. Letters get subpoenaed, baby photos become exhibits, and private heartache gets read aloud by tired clerks. A judge cannot conjure the dead to clarify intent, so every choice is interpreted through dusty statutes, not the spirit of a song. Country listeners adore tales of reckless love, but reckless estate planning writes a sequel no family ever wants to hear. Ironically, those extra pages would end up weaponizing grief, turning heartache into depositions at holiday dinners. Strings attached. Some stars believed their money needed guard dogs, so they installed legal teeth sharp enough to draw blood. George Jones, the possum with a voice as smooth as aged bourbon, slipped a poison pill into his will. Anyone who contested would be cut out entirely. Family members bristled, contested anyway, and watched potential millions evaporate in front of their eyes faster than a bar tab after last call. Jones's message was clear: question my wishes and you inherit exactly nothing. Merle Haggard's tour bus, a rolling monument to outlaw country, carried a different kind of warning. His will included a no-sell clause declaring the bus must remain within the family forever. It could be driven, parked, painted, or even converted into a traveling museum. But sell it to an outsider, and the entire estate distribution would implode. That single sentence turned a depreciating vehicle into a sacred heirloom, too valuable to discard yet too cumbersome to enjoy. Joe Diffie anticipated posthumous exploitation in a digital age, and drafted detailed terms for his image. Family approval became mandatory for every commercial, film, or hologram, effectively locking corporate America behind a gate they could not scale with cash alone. Lawyers praised the foresight, but marketers cursed the paperwork. Mel Tillis approached his catalog like a competitive horse race. Grandchildren would receive songwriting royalties based on each future tune's chart performance. an incentive plan that required Billboard rankings to double as family spreadsheets. The move turned country radio spins into Thanksgiving dinner bragging rights. Such clauses show an obsession with control that outlives the heartbeat. They reveal artists who feared misrepresentation more than death itself, who trusted contracts over kin, who believed legacy was a fragile crystal figurine safe only behind bulletproof glass. And yet, as you'll see in the next act, sometimes the object itself became the legacy. Roy Rogers loved his golden Palomino trigger so much that mere burial felt like betrayal. His will instructed that trigger be taxidermied, reared on hind legs, and displayed for fans to admire until the end of time. A crew spent months preserving every muscle, smoothing the mane and polishing the custom brass nameplate before unveiling the statue under theater spotlights. Visitors gasped, some applauded, and a few quietly wondered whether devotion had crossed into macabre territory. June Carter Cash took a softer approach, but an equally meticulous one. The matriarch of the Carter family listed her cherished autoharps individually, matching each instrument to a relative or museum like a teacher assigning parts in a school play. Every felt-covered pick and inlay carried a story, and she refused to let those stories vanish into attics. Porter Wagoner, always larger than life in rhinestones, demanded his signature suits be donated only to institutions willing to honor his contribution properly. If the curators hung them in a dim corridor, the estate retained the power to yank them back faster than a twangy guitar riff. Merle Haggard's bus, already protected by the no-sell clause, fits this category too, functioning as both rolling museum and caution sign. These tangible relics blur the line between memorabilia and memento mori. They trap nostalgia in dimensions, forcing descendants to dust, insure, and negotiate with objects that refuse to age alongside the humans who tend them. Picture a grandson trying to date while explaining that grandpa's rhinestone suit lives in the guest closet under lock and key. Such items are conversation starters, yes, but they are also anchors tying the living to obligations they never chose. Still, compared with legal directives that spend money forever, a stuffed horse is simple. The philanthropic twists waiting ahead show how estates can keep spending long after the applause fades. While some artists clung to possessions, others tried to orchestrate perpetual good deeds, albeit with curious strings attached. Marty Robbins, NASCAR fanatic when not crooning El Paso, earmarked funds to create scholarships for young stock car drivers. The paperwork requires trustees to select recipients who demonstrate both racing potential and a spirit of American patriotism, a quality debated every grant cycle. Minnie Pearl, beloved for greeting audiences with a price tag dangling from her hat, poured a sum into cancer research, but only if the work benefited Nashville hospitals. Scientists in Memphis or Knoxville could publish groundbreaking studies, yet they would still be ineligible for her money. Charlie Daniels, never shy about waving the stars and stripes, funded an annual patriotic barbecue and concert for veterans. The budget covers smoked brisket, music, and transportation for guests, ensuring the event rolls on long after Devil went down to Georgia. Patsy Montana anticipated political storms and outlawed the use of her yodeling anthem, "I Want to Be a Cowboy's Sweetheart," in any campaign ad, carving an early path for artists demanding posthumous control over their work. Merle Haggard's philanthropic side hid inside that same bus clause. The vehicle can tour schools free of charge as a mobile classroom about music history, but promoters who try to sell tickets will be sued. These gifts reveal a paradox of celebrity charity. They extend kindness while also curating image, funneling generosity through filters that keep the brand intact. A scholarship becomes a hall of fame, a hospital wing doubles as a shrine, and a barbecue morphs into an annual release. To the veteran tasting brisket or the novice driver strapping on a helmet, the motives matter less than the opportunity. Yet every dollar spent reduces what heirs might inherit, which circles back to the real theme underpinning every will, a quest for control, even from beyond the stage lights. If country music is a patchwork quilt of heartache and hope, then the wills of its stars are the hidden stitching, knots holding the pattern together. Across every story you have just heard, one theme roars louder than an amp: control. Artists who once sang about freedom from small-town gossip spent their final months erecting fences around money, memories, and melodies. Family love competes with brand preservation, and public image often wins. Why do otherwise generous performers slice heirs out of fortune or ban campaign ads? Some fear mismanagement. Others crave one last headline. Perhaps the stage lights burn so brightly that once an artist feels them fading, the urge to script the future becomes irresistible. A courtroom becomes a final tour, and each clause is an encore meant to keep the crowd talking. These documents also expose the business side of twang and teardrops. Royalties flow for generations. Catalog valuations spike each time a song lands in a streaming playlist, and corporate suitors circle legacies like vultures. No wonder Joe Diffie wanted a padlock on his likeness. Technology can resurrect a voice without respecting the soul behind it. Meanwhile, families left out in the cold are learning that public sympathy rarely converts to courtroom victories. Fans may tweet outrage, but judges read statutes, not sentiment. The irony is brutal. The same storytelling that crafts an icon's public persona can never be cited as legal proof. In the end, what survives is what was signed. So next time a steel guitar solo makes the hair on your arms rise, remember the unseen paperwork whirring in the background, shaping how that song will echo a century from now. The music fades, the documents remain, and the battle between art and ownership rolls on, verse after complex verse. You have just taken a backstage tour through the most secret set list in country history, a playlist written in legalese rather than chords. Maybe you gasped at Johnny Cash's daughters locked outside the vault, or laughed at Roy Rogers commanding a stuffed horse to keep rearing forever. Perhaps you felt a chill when George Jones weaponized a single sentence, or when Minnie Pearl's generosity came with a geographic border. For every headline you recognized, there were a dozen hidden footnotes, lost handwritten wishes, unclaimed accounts, writers who risked everything on a handshake. These discoveries are more than juicy trivia. They are cautionary road signs for any traveler, famous or not, who ever hummed along to a radio and thought the song might outlive them. A credible plan is the difference between harmony and dissonance after the final bow. It decides whether heirs spend holidays swapping stories or subpoenas, whether a prized guitar lives on a stage or disappears into a pawn shop. Do you want your dream preserved, contested, or commercialized beyond recognition? The answer lives in whatever document you leave behind or fail to leave at all. So take a page, preferably not hotel stationery, from the legends. Spell out your wishes, check them twice, and remember that the legal world has no sense of melody. It respects only signatures and dates. If you found these tales as riveting as an encore under stars, slam that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let us know which revelation kept your jaw on the floor. Next week we dive into the lost love letters of rock rebels, and those pages burn hotter. Until then, keep your stories, your paperwork tighter, and your legacy tuned the way you want the world to hear it when the spotlight dims. Remember, legacy is not defined by the size of a bank account, but by the clarity of the story you leave behind. And the story sings in tune when every detail has been written in ink no judge can ignore.